Hi, Maryland. This is County Council member Wanika Fisher from the Prince George's County Council. You're tuned in to the Conduit Street Podcast, your inside track on county government.
Hello and welcome to the Conduit Street Podcast. Kevin Kinnally here this week with Michael Sanderson and Karrington Anderson. Michael, I think we want to try something a little bit new this week, so why don't you go ahead and outline that as opposed to my normal intro. Here's what we're going to do.
I like it. So glad to be back with the three of us. And I'll say I liked the episode we did toward the end of September, where Kevin, you and I just sort of got together and went through a handful of issues that were kind of out there and things people had been talking about. It was mostly budget and fiscal stuff, but some federal relations and whatnot. We kind of just said, all right, let's top off these various discussions with where we think things are and is this a big deal and stuff like that. And I felt like that was a good brand. And I kind of like it enough that I wanted to come back at the end of this month and try and do the same thing. So sort of take a number of these issues that have been bubbling up and give our perspective on them. Sort of, I don't know, it's like what we think is really going on. Let's go one or two layers deep on a few things. That's my idea for end of the month Conduit Street.
Yeah, I like it, and I know that your guys' September one. It seems like you guys got a lot of your predictions right there.
I don't know, Michael. I don't know if you were keeping track. I'm not sure we get too much credit for saying that Congress is dysfunctional and it's unlikely that they'll work things out. But I suppose, anyway, I like the idea. I think we can try and make this a regular thing. Let's all get together and do a roundup of any of the news, notes, significant things out there in Maryland, politics and Countyland, talk through all the hot takes. I kind of like the concept.
Yeah, it kind of like sports radio. It reminds me of the show First Take, where they discuss the trending sport topics of the day.
That I think that is a great analogy, and that's exactly what we're going to go for here. People are saying this, what do we think? So kind of like our spin on what's out there, is it relevant or not? Is that what you're looking for, Michael?
I like the brand, I will say. So there was a bit they did on Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago, which was a spoof on sort of teenage podcasters. I guess it was sort of built on a podcast from Maryland, but it was basically a bunch of teenagers sitting around a table doing a podcast talking about various vegetables and stuff. They were like, "Yo, potatoes are fire, but asparagus, that's chopped," and so forth. It's all the kid lingo and all that sort of stuff. Maybe I don't know. You see what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. But I don't know, Karrington, even with Karrington here, and Karrington should be able to elevate us tremendously. I don't even think she could help us carry that in a way that would even come close to the SNL bit. I think that we're too far gone from that.
Yeah, I do not think that I can say that's chopped with a straight face. So it's a no from me.
Okay. All right. So we'll stick to maybe some more mature phrasing. We can separate things into news versus noise, and have that be our branding. But I don't know, if we can find the same kind of spirit as these kids sitting around talking about broccoli, I'm here for it. So I think the weirdo Conduit Street listeners would be too. So.
All right. So let's see how this goes. 6'7". Let's see how it goes.
No.
I have young kids. I don't know what it means. I don't even want to get into it. But we'll take this. We'll say we'll do what Michael has said. We'll try to take this in a more mature direction. And the first topic, obviously, we need this transition is not great from 6'7", but the federal shutdown, right? So we're recording on October 29th. There are no signs of things ending. There are no signs of some accord coming together to reopen the government. Everyone out there now thinks this is going to break the record as the longest shutdown ever. So, news or noise? Karrington, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, the record length is 35 days, and I think we're at day 29, if that's right. So, that would mean early November, and I think that's happening. I don't think that's far off. So I would say news, not noise.
I feel like that's kind of an easy call. We're within a week or so. I mean, I would think trying to assess what's going to happen here. I feel like the big issues that lie ahead are sort of the first round of missed paychecks, I guess, are this Friday for a fair number of federal workers. They'll have what would have been a payday where they don't get paid
this week. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if in fact this happens, I guess on on the 1st of November, we see federal funding for what we used to call food stamps, the SNAP program. That's going to run out. So you end up with like people who really feel it. I mean, there's always been this, hypothetical, well, I'm trying to go to the federal park and I can't get in or whatever. But if you get, hundreds of thousands or millions of families who feel this as a lost paycheck or a lost funding for food for your kids, like maybe that makes this more real for a wave of people and this gets more serious. But I mean, my money's on more than 35 days. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with the laws now that try to make shutdowns a little less difficult to handle, that some of these agencies are declared essential and they stay open. I mean, maybe it is though just a different game now. You don't get as much pain right away. And as we sit here saying that, we're not missing paychecks, so it's hard for us to say that. But unless you're counting on programs that are, like you said, Michael, going to go broke, like SNAP, maybe that is what it's going to take. But I don't know. I feel like people generally outside of this region don't pay much attention to it. And I feel like it's really an indication of how dysfunctional things have become in DC. The fact that people don't even bat an eye, they just feel like it's normal because it has become normal. But people who live here and feel it in Maryland, in the surrounding region, it is very real. These are real people who are missing paychecks they depend on to feed their families. So we know that the state and the counties are stepping up, but I'm with you. This is not so controversial. We'll say this is real news. And I'm with you, Michael, that it could be well longer than, the previous record of 35. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, prediction markets are suggesting like buckle up for another month.
Absolutely. And I think it's fair to say. I mean, and here's the curveball, though. And Karrington, you've been all over this, too. This kind of is in your lane. It matters here in Maryland more because the next hot take is going to be that maybe some federal employees aren't going to be made whole despite there being a law in place.
Right. And I think part of what we were just saying before, too, is that really both sides of the aisle, I don't feel like they're really feeling that much pressure because they're both just blaming the other side and they've really branded that. But even with the federal employees, like whether they might not be made whole, that has been the norm, that even after employees are sent home for a shutdown, the federal government makes them whole later. And that has been written into law to make that even more dependable. So, I mean, technically it is the law that they should be made whole.
I don't know. I mean, I'm predicting what's going to happen with this Congress and this administration is just even tougher than trying to follow federal issues generally. And so many different, I don't know, not laws, but norms seem to be just out the window. I would say, though, like if it really looked like the president were making case by case decisions and just telling a whole wave of workers, too bad, I don't like your program, and so you're just not going to get paid for those weeks. I don't know. I feel like that's too much. Like I don't know. I don't think any president would want to look like a ghoul. So I don't know. I'm thinking that's noise. Not that you can hang your hat on it, but I think in the end they'll make good with all the folks who did unpaid work and got laid off and got sent home and all these sorts of things. I think they'll make good on it in the long run.
Well, I mean, I sure hope you're right, Michael. We do know, though, that there are thousands of contractors, small businesses who are never going to recoup any of the funds that they're missing out on now. So I hope you're right in terms of federal government employees getting their back pay. I mean, in Maryland now, we're going to have people who suddenly miss 2, 3, 4 paychecks. That's a lot. It's a big wow. I know there are resources out there, so we'll link some of those, but what a mess. And hopefully they can get stuff sorted soon. Next up, let's go to Maryland, and its rural hospitals are potentially now at risk because of federal changes to Medicaid. This is a big story. It's one that takes hold here in Maryland and in most every state. Karrington, you've been all over this. You've been digging in. You want to take the lead here and explain exactly what's going on and how you view this?
Sure. I think the first answer is we're not as exposed as other states because in Maryland we do have a unique system that aims to cover all of our hospitals, but the comfort there may be about to change. So I do think maybe there is some news here too, but to go into that a little bit deeper and like many of the things we're talking about today, all of them are changing, and this is definitely no exception. So this could change multiple times before we really know the conclusion here. But since the 1970s, Maryland has operated under a system where a state, not the federal government, sets hospital rates. We're the only state that does that, where Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurers all pay the same. And we call it the total cost of care model. It's sometimes called a Medicare waiver. And because we are setting these rates, rather than the feds, the federal government is essentially paying Maryland about $3 billion from Medicare, $1 billion from Medicaid in additional funding that other states aren't getting. And so now we're in the situation with the current federal administration where there are some questions about whether Maryland should still be receiving those dollars. And it's looking like their answer is going to be no, that we shouldn't be. But it's those higher rates that have really helped Maryland's rural hospitals. I mean, if you look around the country, many rural hospitals have shut down over the last 5 to 10 years because they had a heavy dependence on Medicaid and Medicare, and those health systems were paid lower fees for services than in Maryland. So the concern is that if Maryland's Medicaid and Medicare fees drop to what other states pay, then our rural hospitals would be challenged for them to stay afloat. So that would put pressure on commercial health plans to pay higher fees to offset the lower Medicaid and Medicare. But if you're a rural hospital with limited commercial insured patients, then it could be hard to survive. So like I said, like we don't really know what's going to happen here, but I do know that our HR directors in different counties, they're worried.
Yeah, I've been hearing the same sort of thing from my counterparts in other states. I was just at a conference with the state association directors, and this is a pretty hot topic in a number of different states. Folks who are particularly for jurisdictions that run nursing homes or run healthcare through their county governments. But the idea of the changes in federal Medicaid turning into tons more uncompensated care or undercompensated care in rural hospitals might leave some of them unable to continue serving. And then, if you end up with a pocket where there's no place to take somebody who's got signs of a heart attack or whatnot, you've got a community issue in addition to a financial one. So I don't know. I'm grateful that we've been kind of insulated from that because of Maryland's one-of-a-kind system.
Yeah.
But to the extent that that is going to erode in the next coming years, I mean, those issues might become real issues for Maryland sooner rather than later. And for anyone who's listening to this and you're finding this topic tasty, I commend. Dig on the Conduit Street blog and read the article that Karrington wrote that breaks this down. It made the topic very digestible for me, and I think for most of our listeners and readers. An interesting topic that not a lot of folks in our sphere are talking about because we, historically haven't had to.
Right.
Yeah, +1 here on that blog piece. It's excellent. And I don't know, when I think about this and you think about Maryland's model and it starting to get attention, I mean, politics aside, we know that our governor and the president are not aligned politically, and they have publicly sparred. I think that alone is enough to get attention, if you will. But then when you think about Maryland being the only state, just adds more reason to to folks starting to look into this, and it goes in the bucket for me of if the feds all of a sudden say we're going to turn off this spigot that's over $1 billion, whatever it is, Karrington, the state's going to have to be the state's going to be in a tough spot, and they're going to have to make a decision. And this is that bucket where the feds have turned off some funding stream, and the state has to decide whether or not they're going to let that go or they're going to find money to fill in the gap. This is real money, and it just adds on to the uncertainty. So one more thing to worry about. That is fantastic. I will submit the next one because it's very close to home for me. I work very closely with our county emergency managers virtually every day. I'm in contact with them, especially these days. So my submission is the feds denying to show up and help after the Western Maryland floods is a big deal. Carrington, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the pictures from Westernport, and yeah, you can just see they've gotten hit really hard. And I mean, it's a small town, and I just don't see how you fund those repairs locally.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's no way the town can come to the aid and get all this stuff done. There's no way Allegheny County can do that. When Mako had our visit, President Jack Wilson and I met with the county commissioners in Allegheny County, and I mean, that's a pretty small jurisdiction itself. Even the full county doesn't have the resources to show up and find 30, 40, 50 million dollars to repair, infrastructure and roadways and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I think that take is obviously news. And I would say, like, the ride along with it is, I really worry that this topic might be sliding into just becoming a purely partisan red team, blue team kind of thing. I heard someone talking about the Western Maryland floods and whether FEMA was going to show up. And they said, well, that's just how, like, the feds do things now, because this is like tit for tat, because the last administration wasn't willing to help people when there was a flood in Western North Carolina, right around Asheville. And so of course this administration is not going to help in a blue state like Maryland. And I'll tell you, like, independent of what your general thoughts are about structure of government, like, if that's the way we think about responding to help communities in need, is that you have to have been on the right side of the last election or something like that, that's awful. Independent of what party you belong to or believe in, like, I don't want any part of responding to emergencies to become just what team are you on. That's terrible.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
So much to unpack there, and including the situation in Asheville and North Carolina and this tit for tat, but it is awful. And as someone who believes in government, and I think all of us do, it's very disheartening and disappointing. And when you see the work that these people do every day, and you see the devastation out in Western Maryland, and you know that the state is 3 times above the threshold for when FEMA shows up, and they still got denied, and the appeal was denied, it's hard to think that it's anything other than political. And so I agree. This is a very dangerous track that we're on right now, and hopefully we can reverse it. But I do know that FEMA, the federal government, after this hurricane season, they've decided that things are going to change. And, I think that we need to start thinking about how the state, how local governments can respond in the absence of FEMA. That's a hard thing to think about, but it's one that now is on the front burner as far as I'm concerned. So we had a big panel about this at our recent fall symposium. That was fantastic, and I think everyone laid out the issue well there. But this is a big deal, and I'll continue to wave this flag as long as I can. It's a big deal, and I think we're going to hear more about it during the next session. So this is all very depressing, and we can do depressing on this podcast. We do that well, but. But I do have a twist, and I think everyone on this episode, Carrington and Michael, you're both going to have some things to say about this. The NFL, we're talking about the NFL. The tush push must be banned. We've had enough of it. It's over, particularly after this last weekend. It must be banned. And Carrington, I know that you have probably a lot of feelings about this. Go ahead. I'm going to go to you first. First, explain why maybe you are a big fan of the tush push.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is all noise. This is not news, so that need to start there. But also, I don't think every listener is going to be familiar exactly with what we're talking about for the tush push. So just quickly, it's a play that the Philadelphia Eagles are known for. And if it's not already clear, I am a big Eagles fan and I am a supporter of this play. But basically, the tush push is a play in football where the quarterback, usually under the center, takes the snap and is getting pushed forward by typically two players or more players for that extra push. It's similar to the traditional quarterback sneak, and the Eagles are very successful at it, which is why I push back on all of the garbage arguments that this is just a given play. And I think there really are three main arguments that people are using here, and before I bury Kevin, I will explain what those three are quickly. But the first is that it's boring, it's automatic. The second, that it's dangerous, and the third is that refs can't officiate.
All
All of these are bad arguments, and we're gonna get into that. So, for starters, I don't think that this is necessarily automatic. I think if you look at the past 3 seasons, not counting this season, the Eagles have converted over 86% of their attempts. The first year, well, maybe for the Eagles it's automatic, but not for these other teams. The rest of the league is 75%. So the Eagles are just better at it. And there's plenty of reasons for that. But as far as boring, my argument to that is, I mean, I just think, who cares? The Eagles certainly don't. And I have said this to Mako staff before, and I stand by this, but to paraphrase Nick Sirianni, who is the Eagles head coach, some teams are in the entertainment business and some are in the business of winning games. And that's all the Eagles care about. And as a fan, that's also all I care about. And I think as far as it being dangerous, there's no data to back that up. They tried to ban this play earlier, pointing to it being dangerous, and they had no data. And the last thing I'll say about it being difficult to officiate, first of all, let's not pretend that in that Giants-Eagles game that this is the first bad call that an official has ever made in the NFL. Happens all the time. I'm an Eagles fan, and I will admit that play with Jalen Hurts calling it the forward progress, that was a bad call. It should have been a fumble. I agree with that. But just because you don't ban a play, just because the refs are having a hard time officiating it, figure it out, learn how to officiate it, move on. I feel like that one was straightforward. But again, I don't think that's why people want this banned. It's not because of that. They think it's boring, but they just can't do it.
Okay, Michael, before I respond to all of that, I'm gonna let you go, Michael, because I'm gonna let you go first.
So I thought she was fired up about Medicaid.
Right. Yeah.
But
now
we got the hot takes.
I don't know what it says about me that of all the serious and meaningful topics, that this is the one that riles me up the most, but go Birds.
So, okay, we need release and relief in our life, right? So fine. I'm down for this. I would say one particular side of this where I think I would differ from Karrington and I say so at my own peril and danger, I understand, is I would say on the rule administration. I think the example this week added a new layer to how difficult this is to call for the officials. I've been somewhat sympathetic to the argument that there's movement on the line with so many people stacked up together. If you have somebody who's in the neutral zone or whatever, it's hard to enforce. And I've had some sympathy for that, but with a play that's designed to layer the offensive players like a sandwich. I mean, the objective is to shove the quarterback on top of offensive linemen and then try and push him forward. I think you end up with the whole play taking place with the ball carrier not touching the ground. So the things that are easiest to adjudicate in football, are you inbounds or out of bounds? Did you catch the ball or not? None of those things take place because all that's happening is the quarterback holds the ball and is lying on top of like the left guard and the center. And then you got 3 dudes shoving him from behind, trying to get that, the 2 feet of distance they need for a first down or a touchdown or whatever. So like the judgment call of when is forward progress stopped becomes like the whole play. And it's the thing that the human beings as officials are worst at. I think they probably made the correct call by the rules in saying, as soon as it's like the side judge, right? As soon as the side judge personally thinks the play is over, then that's when the play really ends, independent of when the referee blows a whistle and when everybody starts waving their arms and stuff, it's when one guy decides, I think the play ended right there. That's a really tough place for us as viewers and stakeholders to hang our hat on. So I'm kind of finding this as news. I think get rid of it.
So look, I will say if there's a lot to unpack with this. Number one, though, on the boring, look, as a football fan, the NFL is an entertainment business. I don't care what anyone. The NFL is in the entertainment business. Nobody, unless you're an Eagles fan, nobody wants to see the tush push. It's dead. It is automatic. Everyone knows it. They're doing it every short down and distance. You know it's coming, and you can hear the groan from every non-Eagles fan. It's boring. You may not have all the data because it's only 3 years, but it is dangerous. The NFL also worries about, future players. I have kids, again, like people are thinking, right, should I let my kid play football? Right. The NFL has been out front on trying to address concussion issues. People watch this play. It's barbaric. It's not football.
Barbaric.
I don't care what anyone says. You're shoving your quarterback's spine forward. Two big dudes shoving someone's spine forward, trying to get a yard. It's not football. The NFL can't officiate it. They false start nearly every time. They don't call it. Then another team tries it and they get called for a false start. It's at this point, if you can't officiate it, you need to ban it. And then if you can officiate it and you can come up for a set of rules, I'm fine. I don't think it's any advantage for the Eagles. You're right. Any team could run this. It's not that. It's that every week this has become a story. And if I'm the NFL, I like to be in the news, but not for this reason. And I feel like at this point, most of the pundits, even people who were generally on board with it, I think have come to the conclusion it has to go. And maybe you can revisit it and figure out how to officiate it. But it's becoming a huge issue, I think, for the NFL, and it's awful, and nobody wants to watch it anymore. So, Karrington, I'll give you the last word.
The Ravens were one of the teams that were on the side with the Eagles and voted not to ban it. So clearly they're considering using it at some point. And I just disagree about the play. I think it was clear that Jalen Hurts was not down, and that should have been called a fumble. And I think there's an easy way to figure out how to officiate that.
Well,
I think it's too successful. This is their only option, but ban it.
And the problem with forward progress, of course, is that you can't challenge. So the Giants were just stuck on that play. They couldn't challenge. It was a fumble. It is what it is. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's
Go
switch
Birds.
and I will ask Chantel to edit out any Go Bird reference on this podcast. So we'll have to take a look. But let's go back to real policy. School construction is a quiet crisis in Maryland. Michael, news or noise, especially as you've traversed the state and heard from every single county, is this news or noise?
Okay, so I would say this month we got a report from the comptroller who's been trying to dig into things that are a little bit beneath the surface, but are drivers of the Maryland economy and ultimately Maryland revenues and so forth. And she's done a number of these reports, but did one on school construction. And it's a damning report looking at, are we keeping up with the state investment in school construction in terms of how many buildings can you build or how many square feet can you build and so forth? We're not even close. We're nowhere near that. You can say, well, we're doing record funding. It's more than last year by a nickel or whatever. And sometimes that becomes its own political game. But you just go back to the last time we dug into this stuff. And it's been, 20 years ago, the state said we need $250 million as a stable annual investment. Well, the cost of building buildings has gone up so much since then. You can't do 300 or 350 today and say, that's great, we're doing great. The like 850 is the new 250, sad to say. So I think this is news. I think we are behind on school construction. And it is kind of quiet despite being a pretty big deal. It's not something that everybody's out there talking about, but we ought to be.
Yeah, and Michael, we're not just talking about new school buildings, right? This is renovations, modernizations of existing schools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There are parts of the state where we've got rapid growth in school population enrollment, and so you need much more space for all the new kids. But definitely, we in Maryland, like most of America, we have tons of school buildings that were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s that are still in use, and lots of them can still be used. They can be renovated. Lots of them really just need like a new roof or new systems or upgraded spaces or more modern facilities so we can do today's learning, not in a 1970s school. So there's a lot of need out there for sure.
All right. And in that report, I think it highlighted how every year the state puts up its share of funds for, a certain list of projects, but then there are hundreds of millions more in projects that are ready to go. They've already been graded highly by the state. All the paperwork is in order. They just don't have the money to go ahead with them, Michael. And we're seeing that everywhere.
Right. And as we've been out talking with counties, I mean, you get places with growth, the Frederick counties or Charles counties, or jurisdictions that are having a bunch of growth, and this is an issue for them. But this is lots of places. This came up county after county, suburban, rural. Needs for schools is a really big deal.
All right, I am sold that
I'm
this one
sold
is
too.
new. Yeah, news, Carrington, you're sold. All right, so we all three agree this is news. All right, so I'm going to go to the next one. Energy is a big deal. Everyone is concerned about their utility bills. We've heard a lot about it. Last year, there were significant pieces of legislation passed dealing with energy. We're going into an election year, so my submission is energy policy is going to be once again crazy in the 2026 session. We already had it in 25, but it is going to be crazy in the next session. Carrington.
I have to say news.
I mean, I guess you have to, right? I don't think there's two ways about it. Whether it's just you're getting cards and letters from your constituents who are looking at their BGE bill, their Pepco bill, their Chop Tank bill, or whatever, and they're like, "What the heck is going on? We used to pay $90 and now it's 154." And the trend seems to be up, up, up. Or these ancillary but important issues like the transmission line that they're trying to put through the middle of Maryland to connect power in Pennsylvania to power users in Virginia. Like all of this stuff is just hot button stuff. I would say that the tricky part is I'm still not really sure what a state legislature can do about most of this stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like we're hearing whispers that, well, maybe a state like Maryland could re-regulate the generation side, the companies who generate the power and then send it over the regulated utilities lines. Maybe we re-regulate and make it regulated utilities in the generation business again. I mean, I don't know, maybe. I heard this week a suggestion that maybe Maryland should get out of the PJM, the multi-state region we're part of, because the rate setting through the multi-state is so bad. I don't know where we get the power if we're not part of a multi-state grid. I don't know. I mean, hot stuff, but I don't really know what you do about it.
Yeah, I mean, you call it a transmission line, I'll call it an extension cord. Certainly, but I'll agree with you. Like, there's not a whole lot. I mean, everything you just mentioned sounds super easy, right? Regulate utilities, drop out of the regional. So it's all super complicated. I find it highly unlikely that they'll figure all that out in a 90-day session. But I will agree that this is going to continue to be a hot topic, if not just for the fact that people are opening their utility bills and having a heart attack, right? So I don't think there's much they can do. I'm with you, Michael. It's a super complicated issue, but there's no way people aren't going to be sending in those letters and continue to show up at those town halls, right?
Yeah. And I think the demand is increasing. AI, everyone's using AI and the data centers are driving it, but there's just not enough power to go around.
Yeah, so it's super complicated, and this one does feel easy though to say this is legit news. In one way or another, it will be a really hot topic in the 2026 session. So, Michael, I'm going to tell you, this has been pretty good.
Yeah.
We are reaching a lot of consensus. Maybe this one is going to really throw us off track, even more so than the tush push. A
Doubt
new
it.
report says that Maryland's #1 Halloween candy is Snickers. So, do we all agree with this as being news that Snickers is the best? Are we all in agreement that Snickers is the best candy and therefore it is news and is therefore a good thing that Maryland views Snickers as being number one?
I mean, I gotta say, Snickers are up there for me, but no, it is not the top for me. I'm not gonna say that's chopped, but I'm gonna say no.
Oh, Michael?
I think I'm at noise too. I mean, I don't even think. Okay, I'm supposed to be doing hot takes like sports radio style. So I'll say this: not only is Snickers not the best in show, I don't even think it's the best in class. I don't even think Snickers is the best like milk chocolate based candy bar. I mean, like I think a Milky Way is 5 times better than a Snickers. I don't have anything against peanuts. I don't think it's that good.
I don't know about Milky Way, but I will. I mean, I'm up. Snickers is up there for me. I've been known to enjoy a Kit Kat. I'm not sure
Oh
Snickers
yeah.
is number one. But yeah, I don't know. That it's too much for me. I think we can all agree on this one that it is noise, and that it is not number one. So I think maybe we should leave it there on a high note. What do you all think?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
We could do a whole 25-minute episode on ranking the candies. I'm ready to go right now.
Whatever that paid service, Michael, wherever we put those episodes where we just talk for hours and no one listens and someone ostensibly is going to pay for the extra content, I'm ready to do the tush push episode.
yeah. I got
And yeah, I'll put
30
in my
more
whole
minutes in me.
yes, yeah, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. But I guess we can leave it here. As always, if you do enjoy the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe. That way, all of these episodes will be sent directly to the device of your choice. Of course, you can follow along on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and then, of course, the Conduit Street blog. But for Karrington Anderson and Michael Sanderson, that rhymes. And for our producer, Chantel Malcolm Lynn, this is Kevin Kinnally signing off, and we will talk to you soon.